Hello, trading is closed on February 9th, 2021. We always begin with our disclaimer. It's my call for tomorrow, the 10th of February, 2021. No guarantee I'm right. I could be completely wrong, so trade at your own risk. My email is mejt.trades@gmail.com. Our last call was the pattern with the early low and the late high. We got that. We said, much as I'd like to call it top, I didn't think this was it. And that trading from low to high typically led to higher prices at some point the next day, and we got that. When you have this hole in the wall gap, typically what happens is pretty soon you rally back, trade over the high of the wall, and find resistance in that area. That's what happened. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. During the day, MEJT said lower price so would print. That's not enough to satisfy it. Said this rally we had to new highs was false, wouldn't stick. And then we dropped, and this is enough to satisfy the MEJT sell signal. This is just what we said. I was reluctant to call it top. This is a pattern which usually is a positive pattern. When it's negative, it leads to lower prices, but tomorrow's open can substitute for today's close. So if we open up here, all is forgiven. Or if we trade there soon after the open, all is forgiven. It's not impossible. Futures are already there. This wall into the close often represents panic liquidation, gets greeted by gapping over this high the next day. Happens often, doesn't happen every time. So the pattern's a negative pattern. New all-time high, close in the red, all negative stuff, but tomorrow's open can erase all of it because it's only negative because of the close, and that can substitute for the close. Well, this is where I thought we'd have a high. We came within really 1.65 points of the 39.20 target. Sure would be a pretty picture if that worked. I'm really not ready to call it yet, but if we drop, we can look in the rear view mirror and say we came pretty close. This isn't exactly the way that Gann had his squaring of time and price, but we have a 224 point rally and 223 trading days from the low. It's not exactly what he did, but I find it helpful. So we have a lot of things pointing to trouble at today's high. If we drop from here and we don't get this gap up, we have all we need for a sizable correction. I still don't think it's the end of the whole bull, but it could be a pretty big drop first. Typically, when it is the end, nobody's calling for it, and I've got all kinds of people calling for it, frankly, including me. And I like it better when there's no one else predicting it. But that's longer term. Shorter term, if we do drop from here, instead of going up, we have all we need for a pretty good tank. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, because if we gap up here, all that negativity goes away. And this was right at resistance. If you break through resistance, you can go higher. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. Doesn't mean you won't gap up. Hit a new all-time high, close red. That's never good. Had a normally bullish pattern today. We didn't close near the high. Was under the intraday highs. All that's negative stuff. Should lead to lower prices unless we gap and promptly overtake today's high. That's already happened in futures, so it isn't impossible. And the wall into the close often is followed by gapping up. So bleak as today's action was, it can all be erased at tomorrow's open. If it isn't, though, it's trouble. Tomorrow's open should be significant if we maintain the gap in futures to new highs. We've overcome resistance. You still have to get follow through for confirmation, avoiding a false break. But if that happened, we should see even higher highs. But if, on the other hand, we trade higher most of the night and give it back at Wednesday's open, we hit what my friend the late Bill Blount called a pea and trap. He said the Europeans went long overnight. The morning comes, no one wants to go along with them. They're all trapped and they try to liquidate. And if that happens, we have all we need for a significant drop. I still think we'll see new all-time highs in the not too distant future if it happens. But this really is enough if we continue down. But again, until that happens, we don't really have all we need, and it might not happen at all. So tomorrow has the early low. The open's going to be pretty important, whether we're up here or down here. And that's today's call.